Hey, welcome back, Rankers, back from Adelaide. Thank you to everybody in Adelaide last week. I learned a lot of stuff, met some awesome people, got some new mates, so that was really good. I had a bit of a disaster with my slide deck, but that's another story. New glasses, trialing them today, let's see how we go. All right. Okay, so I want to talk to you about hosting. So we've gone across, the DNS issues that, a lot of sites got hit by recently, and we've talked about a lot of those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, a lot of things come down to hosting, and business owners don't know this. So one of them, and we see businesses get destroyed by bad hosting, and I'm not exaggerating there, where they have to come back from a really incredibly bad downtime. And case in point, at the moment, we built a site, and we don't build sites anymore, last decade for this client. And they contacted us last week saying, hey, if you've got a backup of the site that you built now, 8 years ago, whenever it was. And no, we don't. We don't keep backups that long. And the reason that they were asking, of course, is because their hosting company had basically lost their site, disappeared. And the email from the hosting company was less than helpful, in that it said, some of your website files were corrupted. And I'm saying this is what they actually said, website files were corrupted, whatever that means, and we couldn't retrieve them, sorry. What? Now, if you're an online retailer, that's gonna kill you, all right? So that's one of the first things with your hosting is make sure it's secure and you have backups. We also had a retail client who was hacked, and there's 2 sites taken down, and they were down for probably at least a 48-hour, 72-hour period. So you can imagine huge cost, online retailer. Now, they had backups. Unfortunately, the developer who organized the hosting was keeping the backups on the same server as the website. That's a big no-no, because what happens in that situation, if one server gets hacked, then chances are you could lose everything on that server. And if it's your server, your virtual server or whatever else, your hosting company may not even have any say in that or doing that. So don't have your backups on the same server. Backups should be on different servers, remote servers, to protect yourself, double protection, right? So there's, bad security, and security is not only sort of at the hosting level, but it's also at the website level, like making just simple things like making sure your plugins are up to date. We've got another client at the moment, didn't update plugins, they got hacked. And this was the web developer you could point the finger at, because they were also providing the hosting. So the business kind of assumes that it's all over there and they're doing that. You've got to be careful of that, because if you just relinquish all that and you don't know where all these things are, when the proverbial feces hits the fan, you've got to be able to act quickly, and you don't want to be digging around looking for these sorts of things. Another common one, and this just happened the other day, we had a client, their ranking started to drop for one particular key phrase, and when we went and had a look at we saw it drop, it was like here you can see it's number 2, and it sort of went up here, and we thought, oh yeah, bouncing around. Then went down as low as 4, and we thought, oh, that's a bit odd. And then it came back up to number 2. We thought, oh, just maybe normal Google fluctuation, right? And then it started doing this, went bang, 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 up to here, where it dropped to number 7. Now, from number 2 to number 7, that's a significant movement. And, when it stays there for a couple of days. Anyway, what had happened was there was another staging site, which we didn't even know about, with the developer and the hosting company. And basically they had this staging server. I don't even know what its function was, but it was indexed. So basically the client had huge amounts of duplicate content. So essentially they had 2 of their own websites live. And in that situation, people go, oh, is that a penalty? No, it's not a penalty. It's more of a confusion by Google, where Google will go, well, I've got two sites here that are exactly the same, two pages here that are exactly the same. That's not a great experience for the user if I send them to this side or this side, or we'll just rank something else. All right, so that's what happens with the duplicate content. Not necessarily a penalty, but it's that it feels like that. A lot of web developers, web hosting companies are yet to move to HTTP 2. So if you want to know what that is, it just makes things awesomely fast. So ever since the web started, Tim Berners-Lee, we've had HTTP 1.1. We now have HTTP 2. And basically it's an improvement in the way that web pages are served. Now, as many of you know, we've moved all our WordPress sites, our client WordPress sites and our WordPress sites onto WP Engine, because WP Engine, amongst other things, it has these awesome backups. You can back up anytime. And then it also allows us to have HTTP 2, which is great. And it's really easy for us to set up. So a lot of hosting companies are yet to implement HTTP 2. And if you're on your developer's hosting, chances are they're buying those servers from someone else. Like for us, we've got our own set of servers in Australia, but they're hosted by WP Engine on the WP Engine platform, but they are physically located in Australia, so it's faster for Australian users. Quite often that doesn't actually happen with hosting that's sort of two parts removed from what you know about. Like for instance, the web developer may have a setup that is it was all charged through them and you don't really know what it was. Underpowered servers is another big one that we see sites get into. And by that I mean, you might have thousands of sites on the one IP address or on the one server. And this is especially true for some of the really big, cheap hosting that you can get out there. And when I say really big, I mean really some of the really big brands, some of the most common brands that you know of. And you might even be paying for a premium service, but you might still be on a server with thousands and thousands and thousands of other websites. So that server then is actually underpowered. So you don't want that either. You want to be on a server that doesn't have a lot of websites. More than one's fine, but I'm going to say that sentence again because we had a low power mode alert. A normal hosting is fine, a normal server is fine, and being on a server with 20 sites or whatever, that's okay, but it's when you get onto a server when there's hundreds and thousands of sites and some of them are really resource intensive, that's affecting every other site on that server. So with your hosting, I would encourage you to look into it and understand and write it down where everything is. Understand when your DNS has been handled, all right? We saw recently with the big DNS outage how that affected so many businesses. Sometimes that's handled by the registrar, sometimes it's handled by hosting, and sometimes it's handled by another third party that you don't even know about. So you've got to nail all these things down. Understand where you're being hosted, what plan you're on. Do you have HTTP 2? If you want to test if you've got HTTP 2, let's see, HTTP/2 check. And there's a bunch there where you can check. So let's check this one. I haven't used this one before. StuartMedia.com.au. Yay! HTTP 2. Okay, let's go. Maya.com.au. Big retailer in Australia. Oh, so you see? So that's one of Australia's biggest retail brands. Okay, so HTTP 2 is super fast. I actually think it's one of the reasons we see such a jump with WP Engine hosting. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you next week. Thanks very much.